back straight through it. And the inbound. Don't get me started.
We're good? We're good? All right, we're good. We're good. Minutes, I guess, huh?
Larry, the only ones here to see this.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Wow. Anyone you want, Kevin, I guess?
Well, we're going to start with the, follow the agenda there, the land addition of 10 North Fort Thomas. So this was, we've been in discussions with the folks there, with the subway building, and this piece back here is kind of part of the plan or the discussions associated with prior meetings and the obtaining of the parking lot behind 18 North. This is kind of a continuation there for this little piece that would kind of finalize the ability to create an access point to the avenue from that parking lot adjacent to the Village Players building. This is kind of the next piece here by splitting this off from the subway property. The thought process is, you know, if everything goes well, would be to have an agreement with the Village Players for that area adjacent to it for a potential walkway along the side of the building. So I think we've talked about that a little bit before, but this is kind of this piece here would be the city obtaining this last piece of property, this portion of property, and adding it to the parking lot, which is contiguous to a right-of-way back off of, I'm thinking, not Montvale, but the street there just to the south of the post office.
I think it is Montvale.
It is mine.
Is that Montvale? No. So it does contiguous to a larger piece of property. One piece that Tim did a little research on, the remaining piece would not be, for all intents and purposes, compliant with our current zoning associated with the square foot for that piece. However, Tim might be able to elaborate on that. He did a lot of research. There's a lot of other parcels in that block that are of similar size that are non-conforming. And the thought process is it would be kind of more in line with that on that side. I don't know if you have any additional input.
No, that's pretty much it. We really very few of the parcels are conforming when you take a look at how much square footage there is in comparison to the minimum that's set out for our CBD. So that entire area is really it's kind of unique in that I would say 90% of the lots don't meet that minimum requirement, and so this would not be creating something that's really out of the ordinary. We've talked about, in the end, maybe it would make sense to amend the zoning at some point to make it consistent with really what is the norm on that side of the street. Keep and preserve kind of the look and feel of what we've got there. Also, the other area where we were looking at it, if there was not an agreement to sell, which there is, certainly the city could take by eminent domain. It's a reasonable public use that we would be taking it for. There are a lot of cases throughout Kentucky where property is taken for eminent domain purposes, and what's left is a non-conforming lot, that person is exempt from that, from the fact that they're now dealing with a non-conforming lot because the city powers really have created that.
But we haven't gone through an eminent domain process.
We do not.
I don't want to make it either complicated, but I don't think we can legally make a non-conforming lot. I mean, it seems like if we want to do this, it should go to the Board of Adjustment. And I don't know if they can approve a non-conforming lot.
Well, that's why we brought in Tim on this one, and he did the legwork, the deal stuff we can, from a legal perspective.
Okay. So this area belongs to Krion Capital now, and the city's buying it, and it's going to connect it to the land they own. Correct.
You entertain a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion to approve the lot split plat for the city of Fort Thomas. Having to do with Krion Capital and the city of Fort Thomas.
Second.
We move the second, we approve the lot split. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The next item is the land consolidation. This, so this kind of leads into our discussion from last month that will be after this particular one. The applicant actually came forward with parcel 1 and parcel 2 on West Kimberly and wanted to put an addition. They own both pieces and they wanted to put an addition on their house. And we were going to deny it because there wasn't a formal consolidation of the lots. Well, she kind of didn't want to take the chance that we would deny the concept at this meeting of consolidating lots. We talked last month, but to bring folks up to speed who weren't here, we had some discussions about consolidating lots without coming before the planning commission. So essentially, Campbell County and Highland Heights, 2 adjacent cities, do this currently, and they have an administrative review that makes sure all the ducks are in a row. And we brought this to the board last month. Had a few questions, which I got some answers for that we'll discuss, after this one. But this person in particular, I said, well, you can wait and see what the council, I'm sorry, the planning commission decides, and they might decide in favor of that, and you wouldn't have to go through that process of consolidating these lots through a survey. However, she kind of didn't want to take the chance. I think she had easy access to a survey. That ability, I don't know if it was a family member, but she got it done really quick, and so she went forward with this. So this is consolidating the lots, parcel 1 and parcel 2 into one.
So parcel 2 is a freestanding lot now. They haven't created a new line.
Correct. It's that dotted line that is there. It's a rather small, narrow parcel, but it does have a separate PIN and identification code.
Excuse me, may I address the board?
One moment, please. We'll get the.
Okay, it's about this.
Okay.
I just had a couple issues on the plat. The acreage is supposed to be shown on the piece of land. It's in the legal description, but it's not on the plat.
Okay.
The corners are supposed to, say whether iron pins have been set or found or hubs, or there's no monumentation shown on it. I think the surveyor's certification is supposed to have a closure, the ratio, like on the one before that. It says there's enough of the frame to traverse, the adjustment precision ratio of traverse is supposed to have a closure on there. Other than that, if those parcel 2 is an existing lot, I don't think it's a problem.
Jerry, you said the acreage, and what was the second item?
The monuments, like on the one before that, there's a symbol that shows
Oh, the
whether
corners.
it's a pin or a cross notch.
Okay, yeah.
And the certification by the surveyor is supposed to have a traverse closure ratio.
if you're comfortable with me assuring that's done administratively, we can certainly.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that with those conditions that the plat's updated.
Second.
If I may, before we get a vote, we do have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to point out that the PIDN numbers that are on this, the two PIDNs are over 2 miles apart. It's incorrect.
The PIDN scan at the bottom.
The 999-99-12-995 and 996.
Okay.
One of those is on Lumley, the other one is on Brittany.
Okay.
So unless the PVA had wrong, the only reason it even piqued my interest is my friend lived on 62 West Kimberly, and I thought, oh, I know she had a lot next door, and I just kind of went on PVA and looked at it, and I thought that number isn't correct.
Okay. I will follow up on that and ensure that those PIDNs are correct.
They're both, and I'm overstepping by saying I think it's 13, but my concern was if the 12 gets approved and they do a title search when they try to sell the house on Lumley, they'll say, well, actually, you own the property on
I'll amend my motion to.
title searches can cause a problem.
Ask Kevin to verify the PDI.
And my only thought was it was from the PVA side. Could they have been the one that made the mistake? Likely not, because those two.
It was probably the surveyor. Let's make it up.
Oh, is it the surveyor? I didn't know if it was the attorney, if it was the surveyor. I didn't know who it was, but it seemed more.
If it's a rectangle lot,
So you got that one correct?
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, we can get some there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4. Thank you.
The last item of business is continued discussion of the combination of parcels without coming before this commission. And as stated, we actually have a handful, I shouldn't say a handful, there's 3 or 4 out there that this has really never been an issue before. One person approached Campbell County, they kind of initiated the conversation with me, and then since actually there's a couple others that have come before us and essentially just said, well, do I really have to go through the process of the cost associated with surveying this other property if it's already got a legal description and it's already platted, everything is already there at the county. And in speaking extensively with the county planner, this is something that they regularly do. They have, obviously, with the county, they have a lot more of these on a regular basis. But some of the outstanding questions from last month were concerns associated with a chairman's signature. There was, in speaking with him, did not feel that's necessary. They actually have language in their document. I couldn't find any language to dispute it. And perhaps this is something that Tim and I can look into a little bit more, but that talks about chairman and or administrative authorized administrative representative, I think is the language. So, that's something that he didn't feel that was an issue there. I think the more than 2 was another question. Could someone conceivably combine more than 2 lots? And he said it's rare. He's been doing this for quite some time, and it's very rare, but felt no reason why that would be of any concern. Similarly to a combination of 2 lots, if you're combining that many lots and you ultimately want to develop that, obviously they have to come before this commission with a development plan. Unless there were 3 large lots and they wanted to, potentially in a residential area, and they wanted to stick a single-family house in the middle of it, combine them, which obviously would be less density and less of a conflict. Certainly in any of our commercial areas, it has to come before this board for any development plan or any improvement on that property if more than 2 were combined. So didn't really see much of an issue there in his evaluation. Those were the 2 big things. you know, once again, I think there was discussion about a fresh survey if one is felt needed, and his thought process was, you know, if it's got a legal description and it's there, it's in place, there shouldn't really be a necessity for that, if it already has a full legal description and it is recorded and has its own PIN. So,
Are you talking about the consolidated parcels having a legal description, or are you talking about each?
each individual parcel having its own legal description that you could combine into one.
Well, but if you consolidate them, then who ensures that you've got a good legal for the boundary of the whole?
Well,
I mean, isn't that what we would
Well-
have a surveyor create, or?
well, I mean, I guess you would have those with the combination of the three lots. You would have elements of those. You wouldn't have one legal description that combines those all into one, but those three elements would lead into one, one parcel that
I understand, I guess, what would the procedure be for combining the lots then? Would they need them?
create one PIN and need them together. There's an example in your packet, the last page, of what Campbell County does. I think this is kind of a form letter that they do administratively that is, essentially combines the PINs of the ones that are there, and then, assures, administratively that there's not essentially two houses on one parcel, that you're combining two houses, obviously in a district where you can't do that. In most cases, you can't do that. So there is some elements there that talk about those combining of lots and assuring that those things are done, and then creating its own PIN number. That's something ultimately the county does on our behalf. But as far as having a one consolidated document, as you're stating, they don't feel that that's necessary. If you have all those elements together.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, it says, that they have a quitclaim deed, but that quitclaim deed's gonna have it's gonna have a description of the whole, rather than a description of each of the individual lots, I would think. And it seems like we would want a surveyor to approve or, do drawing or whatever. I'm not sure who else, I understand, you can take the outside elements and just add them together and whatever else, but I don't know that, seems like that's a surveyor to do that.
Every time I've ever done it, it's had a survey, and it's had a new description. In that type of setting, and I'm certainly not the guru that Jan was on property. Who would put that together?
I think your PVA would put together through those, through one PI, creating one PIN for it and pulling those documents together. But would there be a closure, kind of a typical closure, as Jerry was mentioned, about this point, this point, this point, and this point, that was this? I don't think that's the case. There wouldn't be anything like that in place, but you would have these three documents, let's just say it was 3 lots. You would have these 3 documents, 3 lots that, could be pieced together if necessary. And once again, I'm going on what Campbell County does. If I don't know if those are valid concerns, or.
Is the goal that they don't have to come to us for approval?
I think the goal is to not require them to expend the monies to get a survey. Because there are certain situations, actually one of the situations that is present, it would be a rather expensive consolidation. Just the way the lines are configured, and to get out there and resurvey this thing would, and I'm not sure what survey costs are these days, but it's not a simple 2 lots next to each other and draw some lines for $750.
Well, would a surveyor though, could they do it without field work? And if you've got 2 existing lots that have approved legals, I'm just looking at,
Unless they did do the surveys, they really couldn't, they would have to do the survey themselves.
They have to do it.
That would be- Use their signature on it, so they're-
Well, I understand that. I'm just I'm just trying to figure out how we ensure that the legal description that gets approved on a quitclaim deed or anything else is appropriate, unless we've got a surveyor, somebody that can tell us it.
But prior to this conversation, I was definitely a proponent of streamlining the process. But I am concerned with what you brought up. And Jerry, what's your thought with regard to how would we get the proper description?
I was gonna ask what the actual benefit is, because I do see some downfalls with it, not every survey is perfect, because not every piece of land is a easy rectangle where both sets of, lines are parallel. And so you got a little bit of an error here, you got a little bit of an error here, and you put it together, it seems like it'd be a good thing to actually survey the whole thing and make sure that the numbers are correct. I mean, if you have these two pieces of land, these actually might not be parallel in reality, even though the numbers make it look that way. And it would be good, to have a survey confirm that. There are problems when you divide up a piece of land, you might end up with a non-conforming lot or something. When you're consolidating, you don't have those kinds of issues, but there probably are some minor issues, and the survey and the legal description.
We talked about it last. I don't know how many cases come up that this is even warranted messing with.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Or I like, kind of like you, do you get somebody that takes these two descriptions without a physical survey, makes you one drawing? That seems like that would be at least minimum required. It shouldn't be that difficult, I would think.
Well, like Jerry said though, if it's not the surveyor putting his stamp, he's putting his stamp on it, I can see where he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he needs to do it. I mean,
Somebody else,
You got, yeah, you got that.
I'm not a surveyor, but I've worked with him.
can somebody else do it besides the surveyor, so he doesn't have to stamp it, or we say we don't?
Well,
need
it
to
sounds
stamp
like we're-
it? Do is consolidating information.
Sounds like we'd be putting it on the PVA to give us a description.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, it doesn't seem like,
I think it's leave it alone.
I mean, honestly, once again, I'm on behalf of a couple folks, that was brought to me, I think somebody didn't know the process, they approached Campbell County initially saying, hey, what do I gotta do? And they explained our role here, in Fort Thomas, explained how they did it, and, they kind of planted the seed with them, saying, hey, we shouldn't have to pay for an extra survey. And once again, if that's not the desire of this commission, that's why I brought it before you. I didn't want to overstep. I know that this is the way it's been done traditionally. I did not significantly dig into KRS to see if there's language that says you shouldn't do it or you don't have the right to do it, but the language in KRS does talk about generally lot splits. It really doesn't talk about consolidations in great detail. It talks about more splitting of property and the need to get surveys to split property. It really doesn't talk about it a whole lot.
but bigger projects where you have a backflow or even a house, usually the back's going to require a survey anyhow. That's, just they want to make sure they know what's being bought. And I don't think that's going to really get them out doing the survey if it's a project of any size.
So I have a question. So if the two properties are under the same ownership, and they do get a survey, can it just go to you and not come to the planning commission? Can you do it that way?
I mean, I think if they're getting a survey, there's no reason not to come before the planning commission and just formalize it and finish it. I think that the rationale behind it was to prevent the need for a survey and save them some money. I mean, I think generally when I get these, they're a week in advance of a planning commission meeting, we review them and submit it to you all. So I don't think there's a significant delay there. I think it's more the monetary issue is the way it's really described to me.
I guess I'd be in favor of making sure we keep the requirement of a survey. I mean, when we look at this, I trust what the surveyor's done. They can make mistakes too, I'm sure, but they can do better than I can.
Hard enough to just leave it alone, or do we need a motion?
I don't think you need a formal motion. I think this is all discussion. I think that's why we brought it before. So
Bring it back if you get 5 or 6 of them this next year, maybe we'll review it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this was one of them. That's why they wanted to come, because they wanted to move forward with their addition,
Yeah.
essentially. And we wouldn't grant the permit because they were too close to a property line, essentially. So that being said, if that's your desire, we'll keep that and inform the few folks that, want to combine those lots, that they need to get a survey if they want to combine the lots.
Well, it's always been.
I know Campbell County says they can do that. Did you check the KAR or anything and see if the state actually allows it?
I've not, but I can't.
It seems like before we do anything, even if we were to consider this, we probably should take a look at that.
Better yet, I'll call friends and make them do the work.
Yeah, it's just they essentially said that, the planner, in just the support of that, the only thing that you can find in KRS or KAR is the, just discussions of lot splits and the need for surveys. It really doesn't say a whole lot, one way or the other, about consolidations of property.
I thought it's good to have a sentence that high, so a legal document like that, so. I'm with you, Dan. I think we should leave it alone, unless there's a really good reason to change it.
Anything else, Kevin?
No, I don't have anything. I did see a member of the audience may have a comment. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising your hand.
I might have, I might not have. I do have a comment though, since you opened the door. Back to.
Well, I
had to get a survey for $600 to plant trees in my yard, in between mine and the next yard. So that's just as an aside. But on this West Kimberly, and to me it's easy peasy. But this is a vacant area, 1/10 of an acre, in between two lots. So without a survey, my what ifs is that 62 is who wants to buy this and add the addition. 58 is on the other side of this empty one. Now, if it were me, and I had this empty lot, and I know Jim and Toy Hall lived there, forever and ever, I don't know about people at 58, you might have put your swing set like this vacant lot, you just sort of moved it over. Talk about the people at 58. And then suddenly, it's not theirs anymore. And it's not theirs now, but
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously.
yeah, like the other neighbor, I think, trust me, if you see a surveyor out there, you notice them, because they take quite a while. And it is an expense, I'm not going to deny that, but I think it's legal. I mean, it's like saying, well, we're just going to transfer
Well,
our
once
house
again,
without.
I was going by another jurisdiction that kind of did this, and,
If you're gonna put up a fence or something, you definitely want to survey it and make sure it's on
My
your property.
point, my
Yeah.
point. And same with the top, and again, Campbell County, a lot of that's still farmland, which is, I think they view things like that a little bit different.
More wide open. Yeah, we got a lot of things close together.
Kevin, can I ask a question, please?
it's chairman.
I'm Sharon MacKnight, 62 Miller Lane. Jerry or Tim, when you guys were talking about eminent domain, can you explain that again? 'Cause I didn't hear because of the loud noise.
Eminent domain is a process where a governmental entity, whether it be the state or
I know.
municipality,
So what were you pertaining to? What was it something on Montvale or was it somewhere? I didn't hear that.
the area that is being purchased from, it's not being taken by eminent domain.
Okay.
It's being purchased from the subway owner. And, but the question was, if that becomes a non-conforming lot, is that a problem? There was case law out there that talks about eminent domain creating non-conforming lots all over the place. And is that an impediment to going ahead and taking the property? And the answer is no. Go out 27, there are all kinds of non-conforming lots now because they had to widen that highway. And that's really what we were talking about.
Okay. Is the property right there behind Subway and by the Village Players?
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I heard Montvale, so I got a little confused.
No, the only thing with Montvale is that's where the access to that property is. There's a flag. That, not true access, but that's where you have right-of-way access to create the lot that we have.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Y'all have a good Thanksgiving and
Yeah, Thanksgiving, everybody.
Merry Christmas. We don't see you next month.
Richie, I said that.
Yeah, and my mom said hi.
I was gonna ask,
Give her a hug.
I know.
Put a bump out, so